Good morning, Birmingham Unitarian Church.
Good morning.
How are we on this fine August morning? I hope you have plans to enjoy the day after. It is good to be together, though. Whether you're joining us here in the sanctuary, on Zoom, or watching this recording later, we welcome you. It is good to connect. As a multi-platform church, it is important for us to build a bridge between the people here online, here in person, and the people there online. So we'd like to do a little bit we called greeting our virtual neighbors. First, we'll project the images of the folks who are on Zoom and ask them to please turn on their cameras and give us a wave. Pets are encouraged. Thank you very much. And then we're going to ask everybody here in person to turn towards the camera in the back there and give them a wave. If you're visiting us for the first time, I would like to say that we do have a coffee hour after service. Please come give us a join. Happy to talk, happy to give donuts, or even just stand in the corner and drink coffee and look at all of us. Everybody's welcome here. If you are with us on Zoom, we invite you to stay on for a virtual coffee hour. We will be breaking our attendance in Zoom out to small groups and letting them have discussions about the day's service afterwards. Whenever and however we connect with BUC, we are building BUC. At home, on campus, in the world, every day, we are building the beloved community.
How about now? As we light the chalice flame, these words by George Kimmich Beach. In the mystery of life about us there is light. It gives us a place to be, to grow, to rejoice together. It opens the pathways to love. Now I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn 354. We laugh, we cry. Verses 1 and 4. Good morning. I'm Reverend Connie Grant, minister of this congregation, and I am glad you are all here, whether in here or out there. These words are by Frederick Buechner. Who knows whether there is life on any other planet anywhere in the universe, but there is life on this planet. And what is life like? Think of not knowing what life is and then finding out. A book suddenly learning how to read. A rock jutting out into the sea, suddenly knowing the thump and splatter of the waves, the taste of salt. You're alive. It needn't have been so. It wasn't so once, and it will not be so forever. But it is so now. And what is it like to be alive in this maybe one place of all places anywhere where life is? Live a day of it and see. Take any day and be alive in it.
The mission of Birmingham Unitarian Church is to be a free and welcoming religious community that encourages lives of integrity, learning, service, and joy. In one way that we live out this mission is by giving half of our weekly donations to causes that we find, causes and nonprofit organizations that share our values and address needs in the community. In one of these areas, environmental action, civic justice, economic justice, and racial justice. We support a new organization each month. This plate recipient is one of our long-term projects with Walt Whitman School in Pontiac. Since 1998, this congregation has been helping out Walt Whitman by stocking and operating a mobile library, also do tutoring, conduct other programs that help students learn and feel supported by their community. And your offering this week will be used to buy books for the library, supplies for those programs, and occasional necessities for students. Thank you so much for so many years of valued support for this program. We will now receive our offering in gratitude. We are a church of open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. With gratitude, we dedicate your offerings to the good works of our congregation and dedicate ourselves to its service. Thank you.
We hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows. The joys and sorrows of the congregation that are shared with us this morning are these. From Shannon Snyderman, this week marks 29 years since the untimely death of my mother. I've asked Valerie to light a candle for me so that my mother may be remembered on this day. From Larry Friedman, my daughter Emily learned last Friday that her uterine cancer had spread and that she will require chemo treatment and some radiation. Please keep her in your heart and prayers. And a joy from Sophia Williams. Today, I share the joy of the school year beginning as I head into my second year teaching middle school. We remember those experiencing losses and those facing health challenges. We pray in whatever way we pray for all those affected by war, by hatred, and violence. We pray for peace. Even when the cares of the world weigh on us, may we find joy in our connections with each other and in the pleasures that life holds. Let us care for one another and for ourselves in all the ways we can. If you wish to do so, please come forward now to silently light a candle in remembrance of a loved one who has died, or of a sorrow that weighs on you, or of a joy that lifts your heart. as we hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows, whether spoken or unspoken, and in remembrance of our loved ones, we will light a final candle. This meditation is titled Beatitudes by Richard Gilbert. Blessed are the heavens, for they declare the power of creation. Blessed is the earth, our beloved home, for she is a planet of plenitude. Blessed are the waters thereon, for they gave rise to living things. Blessed is the land, for it is the source of life abundant. Blessed is the air we breathe, for it fires us to life and love. Blessed are the beasts of the field, for they are glorious to behold. Blessed are the birds of the air, for they carve a graceful arc in the sky. Blessed are the mountains and the seas and the valleys, for their variety makes rich our habitat. Blessed are the fields of grain, the orchards of fruit, for they give sustenance, asking nothing in return. Blessed are the dwellers on earth, for they cherish the privilege of living upon it. Blessed are they who protect the earth and all her creatures, from the plants of the field to the trees of the forest, for their reward shall be harmony with the web of existence. Rejoice and be glad, for the earth and her people are one. And now please join in singing Spirit of Life.
A reading this morning, To Save or to Savor, by Richard Gilbert. Gilbert begins with a quotation from E.B. White. I arise in the morning torn between the desire to improve the world and a desire to enjoy the world. This makes it hard to plan a day. He reflects. I rise in the morning torn out of the desire to save the world or to savor it, to serve life or to enjoy it, to savor the sweet taste of my own joy, or to share the bitter cup of my neighbor, to celebrate life with an exuberant step, or to struggle for the life of the heavy laden. What am I to do when the guilt at my bounty clouds the sky of my vision? When the glow which lights me every day illumines the hurting world around me? To savor the world or to save it? God of justice, if such there be, take from me the burden of my question. Let me praise my plenitude without limit. Let me cast from my eyes all troubled folk. No, you will not let me be. You will not stop my tears. To the cries of the hurting and the hungry, you will not close my eyes to the sight of the afflicted. What is that, you say? To save, one must serve. To serve, one must save. The one will not stand without the other.
As Unitarian Universalists, we hold a wide range of beliefs. We celebrate a variety of holidays, and we engage in a diversity of spiritual practices. Our beliefs are based on our reason, our experience, and our sense of what is right. Our celebrations are based on our cultural backgrounds or our sense that a particular metaphor speaks to us. Our spiritual practices are ways of intentionally and regularly focusing our attention, knowing ourselves and the world around us more deeply, and for each of us to help our own spirits get in touch with the spirit of life. Those spiritual practices are drawn from a variety of sources, including the meditation or prayer practices of the world's religions or our own creativity. My friend and colleague, Frank Robertson, was a serious student of world religions, but he was not always serious. He once told me a joke that went like this: What did the Zen Buddhist say to the hot dog vendor? Does anybody know the answer? You do? What's the answer? Make me one with everything. Yes, thank you. This morning, I would like to explore the idea that the goal of spiritual practice is to become one with everything, to become one with the universe, if you will. Some might express this as becoming one with God. I would like to explore the idea that the path to becoming one with everything is to become one with oneself. And I'd like to explore the idea that that pathway is right here in everyday life. In a book called After the Ecstasy, the Laundry, Buddhist monk Jack Kornfield quotes Gary Snyder, Zen teacher, poet, and father. Snyder writes, "All of us are apprenticed with the same teacher, reality. It is as hard to get the children herded into the carpool and down the road to the bus as it is to chant sutras in the Buddha hall on a cold morning. One is not better than the other. Each can be quite boring, and they both have the virtuous quality of repetition. Repetition and its good results make the very activities of our life into the path." It seems to me that what makes herding the kids into the car as much a spiritual practice as chanting sutras, to use Gary Snyder's terms, is to be paying attention when one is doing it. I'm afraid that mundane tasks are just mundane tasks if I feel fragmented when I am doing them. If my hands are doing the laundry while my mind is elsewhere, and my spirit isn't paying attention at all, then I'm just doing the laundry. But am I really doing the laundry? More importantly, if I'm talking to someone while my mind is somewhere else, say if I'm checking my email and my spirit is not engaged, then I'm not really participating in the conversation. Spiritual practice requires me and teaches me to be fully present, attending to what I am doing while I am doing it. If the path and the goal of spiritual practice is to become one with the universe by becoming one with myself, I must be aware of myself as part of the interdependent web of all existence. Because we are already one with the universe, part of and not apart from our environment. We are connected with each other. We have only to recognize our connections. On a form required for ministers to earn full fellowship within the Unitarian Universalist Association, one of the questions for ministers and for representatives of a congregation is whether the minister shows evidence of a spiritual practice. Early in my ministry, my own response to that question, before I figured out what my written response would be, was, uh-oh. As I recall, the answer I came up with was something about contemplation and conversation, which I do consider to be spiritual practices. And the president of the congregation I was serving at the time gave an answer that was equally true, or perhaps even more true. We suspect that ministry is her spiritual practice. For me, the practice of ministry is the spiritual practice of being human. I frame my calling to ministry as a calling to serve as a designated human being. I'll say more about what I think that means when I talk about the work that calls us next Sunday. I'm called to help people in religious community to live their lives fully and creatively, which are the words I say as a benediction every Sunday. The Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams, a great institutionalist, said that church is a place where you get to practice what it means to be human. Practicing being human, isn't that why we are all part of this religious community? We get to practice being human over and over again, getting better and better at it all the time. Kind of like playing the piano, right, Gabe? Spiritual practice fits into our lives through attention and intention. Spiritual practice that leads us inside ourselves leads us back to community, and spiritual practice that leads us outside ourselves leads us back to our own essential selves in continuing cycle. Such a practice isn't separate from everyday life, it's essential to it. Cultivating silence, a time to just be quiet, can be a spiritual practice. An authentic Unitarian Universalist spiritual practice is the one practiced by our forebear, Henry David Thoreau, who would spend time in nature, wrapped in a reverie. To be wrapped in a reverie meant that he would sit quietly outdoors, doing nothing in particular, not thinking about anything in particular, just watching the natural world. As Thoreau described his method, sometimes I sat in my sunny doorway from sunrise till noon, wrapped in a reverie, amidst the pines and hickories and sumacs, in undisturbed solitude and stillness, while the birds sang around or flitted noiselessly through the house until by the sun falling in at my west window, or the noise of some traveler's wagon on the distant highway, I was reminded of the lapse of time. I grew in those seasons like corn in the night, and they were far better than any work of the hands would have been. They were not time subtracted from my life, but so much over and above my usual allowance. I realized what was meant by contemplation. Listening, contemplation, or silent meditation can be practices of silence that nurture our own spiritual selves so they can grow and blossom. The poet John O'Donohue noted that one of the terrible dangers in spirituality and in trying to become aware is to privilege some particular method to take you there, because then the method becomes the end, not the means. O'Donohue said, I think being here is it, and that 10,000 times a day you can slow a little and throw one savoring glimpse at the miracle of being around. What a miracle, being here, fully present to each other and to ourselves, being present to our lives. As Gary Snyder suggested, our teacher is reality. We get to practice being human every day. We practice through attention and intention, paying attention to each other and to our own senses, whatever techniques may help us achieve this. We pay attention to what's going on inside us and around us, because that's how we can truly show up in our own lives and in our world. Like any spiritual practice, paying attention requires something we might call discipline, the commitment to return to it when we are distracted from it. Multitasking is not spiritual practice. Multitasking is distracted living. We may think that multitasking helps us get things done, but as the author of the book Stolen Focus notes, multitasking is a myth. When we think we're multitasking, we're really switching back and forth between one thing and the other. And that switching comes with a cost to our actual performance and our creativity. The author uses the term cognitive he uses the term cognitive degradation to describe what happens when we try to multitask, because our ability to do either thing suffers as we reset and refocus. As the supervisor of my chaplaincy internship program used to say, sometimes the interruption is the job. In fact, in ministry, I would say often the interruption is the job. Being open to shifting focus is actually monotasking, not multitasking, as we realize that our attention is required elsewhere because of someone else's need or our own, and we refocus our attention where it's needed. Living mindfully and heartfully is spiritual practice. Paying attention to the thing we're doing, to the person we're talking to the beauty around us, to the needs of the world, lets us, maybe even makes us, respond to what's really going on. This is the mantra of my spiritual practice. To know what I know, to feel what I feel, and to be who I am. One with the universe, one with myself. The hymn, "Wake Now My Senses," speaks of a call to all of us to be fully human. The hymn describes spiritual practice of full engagement with the world. Body, mind, and spirit fully awake and fully alive. I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn 298, "Wake Now My Senses." Two more verses, please. As we extinguish the chalice flame, these words by Susan Carlson. We are blessed by our connections to one another and to the Spirit of life. May we walk lightly that we see the life that is below our feet. May we spread our arms as if we had wings and could dance through the air. May we feel the joy of the breath in our lungs and the fire in our hearts. May we live to love and be a blessing on this earth. May we live our lives fully and creatively so that we may be a blessing to ourselves, to each other, and to all those whose lives we touch. Go in peace.